See, we don't venture down to DTLA.
Yeah,
ever.
well, we hardly do anything. We were going to an escape room that was that way, and then
Ben, when are we going to do an escape room?
I have been. Yeah, I've done.
Have you done
the Lab Rat, and we did the new one.
You've done the ladder, yeah.
We did. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't done ladder yet. I'm trying to get Haruka to do ladder with me, and it's been like this whole fucking.
Wait, Michael, I'll do it.
You want to do ladder?
I have been dying to do an escape. I did one for my birthday
the ladder,
a few years
I've heard,
ago.
is not really like an escape room. We are recording.
Oh, just sorry. I didn't realize we were.
In this episode, we sit down with Ben Stringfellow, a talented Post Assistant Editor whose impressive credits include Rampage, Avatar, The Way of Water, and The Flash. Ben shares his journey starting from his roots in Annapolis, Maryland, to breaking into the world of editorial. We discuss his beginnings in unscripted television, his apprenticeship on Avatar, and his transition to becoming a Post Assistant Editor on major projects like The Flash. Ben also offers insights into his philosophy as a Post Assistant Editor, how he navigates the complexities of filmmaking, and his favorite pastime, logging films on Letterboxd. Welcome to our...
Actually, this is an escape room, Ben. You're now in an escape room.
Welcome to Sips and Clips. My name is Leanne McFalls.
I'm Michael Schusterman.
What a delayed intro.
I got a text message the moment.
Oh my God.
What is that?
We are here today with our guest, Ben Stringfellow. He is an assistant editor, and he's going to talk to us about assistant editing and whatever else he feels like
Ben,
he
would
wants
you
to
like
talk
us to call you
share.
Ben or Benny Strings?
You can call me whatever you want. You can call me Benny Boy.
Benny Boy.
Benny Boy. Benny Strings is always like, I feel like that I
do hear people like refer to you as Benny Strings sometimes. Like,
oh,
they'll be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, I was
People
hanging out with
explain
Benny
that,
Strings this weekend.
Yeah.
And they'll take me, I'll be like, and then I'm like, isn't that his Instagram handle?
Yeah,
or
it's just my
whatever
handle
it is?
for everything. Yeah.
I feel like that I also refer to him as Benny Strings, but I don't always refer to him to his face as Benny Strings. It's just like, oh yeah, Benny Strings. And when I see him, I'm just like, Ben. And then it just is like that. But yeah, he'll be talking to us about assistant editing and his philosophy on being a first and how he got to where he is. But we'll start off with what we're sipping on. Ben was sipping on...
Right now, I'm sipping on a little bit of old-fashioned H2O and ice. But earlier... I got what's called a Gibraltar, which is an espresso drink, which I actually hadn't really started drinking until I got it at Alfred at the terminal, the Delta terminal at LAX.
There's an Alfred at LAX?
Believe it or not, yes, there is.
Probably only in the Delta.
I never fly Delta. I always fly Southwest.
Yeah,
so.
and I had it when I was on my way to Atlanta for screening one time, and I was like, "This is life changing. I gotta get this every time I go to any coffee shop now."
So, what is it again? It's espresso. Is it just espresso?
It's just a really strong version of a macchiato or so. Like so it's like a like it's just a more espresso than the milk. Okay. So it's like two shots of espresso with like a little bit of milk.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll be fact checked by that and be totally wrong.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's 2 shots of espresso and 2 ounces of steamed milk.
There you go.
2 ounces?
2 ounces.
So only 2 ounces and 2 shots of espresso. So
I'm pretty hardcore.
Ben is going to be jumping off the walls in about...
I knew a producer that only ever ordered red eyes. I don't know if you ever had a red eye.
I haven't. What?
Black coffee and espresso. That's it. And I was like, dude, this is metal. This is like...
I feel like that would
a little
taste
too intense. Yeah, it just tastes bitter. It just tastes bad.
Would just, yeah. What about you, Michael? What are you sipping on?
Oh, I'm having an almond milk latte, but as always, but you know what? We're continuing the trend of a pumpkin spice. We're on, I'm pretty sure this is pumpkin spice 12 of the season so far.
Oh my God.
I have to check my phone. I normally track it. I think this is number 12. So I always see how many I can get down. My goal is to pump my stomach full of chemicals, full of Starbucks level chemicals. So
Not just Starbucks chemicals, but pumpkin spice Starbucks chemicals.
I want to be part of one of those Bond villain plots where like all of the pumpkin spice latte actually has some type of like delayed virus that they flip a switch.
Right.
And I have so much of it that it actually can't kill me because it kills itself, you know, like a whole set.
Right. You want to be the prize-winning pumpkin in the pumpkin patch at the end of the
day. Exactly. My goal is to blue like
You're just
Veruca Salt. The orange instead of blue.
So it's a pumpkin spice latte, but with almond.
Yeah, milk. So it's an almond milk latte, pumpkin spice, no whip, no pumpkin topping, and only one pump of the 4 pumps. Because if you do the 4 pumps, then it's just way too sweet. So you just take it down to 1.
That sounds like something I would love.
It's really fucking good.
4 pumps of, give me all of the pumps.
Yeah, the problem with the 4 pumps is it's like, then you're just eating a cookie. Then you're like, wow, this is so sweet. I feel like my teeth are going to
That's how I like my coffee.
Oh.
Which is actually funny because what I am drinking is a sugar and spice latte.
A sugar and spice and
sugar
everything
and
nice?
Spice latte. I got it over at M Street Coffee, which is on Moore Park. And I actually usually get this because it is very sweet and tastes like, it kind of tastes like like sort of like a chai latte, but instead of the chai, it's just straight up sugar. So it's just like a nice sip of fall and Christmas in my mouth.
It just makes me think of the Powerpuff Girls because they go
sugar, spice,
and everything nice.
Yeah.
And it also has ingredient X in it or whatever, the thing that he spills.
Maybe that's what really the L is. It's not latte, it's ingredient X.
It's ingredient
I'm going
X.
to become a Powerpuff Girl.
Yeah, who knows?
But let's get into it. And Ben, why don't you talk to us about how you got into the industry and how kind of we like to ask our guests too, like how they got interested in film to begin with and what made them
go to the start.
Yeah, the very start.
Let's see.
Ben's like, I opened my eyes and I saw
opened
my mom.
eyes and I said, persistence of vision.
Brisk autumn ening in October of '93.
Yeah. We're going to go farther back.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I don't think some people can kind of pinpoint the origin of when they discovered movies or, that. But I think really, I don't know if I had a specific moment, but other than just, growing up watching Hook on VHS while eating pizza on the couch.
Great movie, though.
Watching.
I used to watch that movie on repeat, like.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Bangarang.
Exactly. Rip Rufio. Yeah, Back to the Future.
Yeah. Let's just quote Hook for the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to just.
All right, so Fade Up from Black. And he's sitting in the theater watching the play of Peter Pan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll save that one for later. That's the bonus feature. So Back to the Future, Lord of the Rings, these big epic movies that have a lot of heart and charm. That's what I grew up watching. And fast forward into high school, I took a couple, what were called video classes. I don't know if I learned a single thing other than just how to fool around with a video camera. Mm-hmm. And I was introduced to editing, but I didn't really know what it was at the time. I was like, I don't want to do that. It seems like extra work that no one wants to do.
Now, what program?
I don't even remember. I think it was like Adobe, like not Adobe Premiere, like some kind of like Adobe Flash editor, like some. It was this was like way before that. Definitely not average. This was like this is in a college prep school in Maryland that I had no clue what this was.
2005,
something like that. Yeah.
Now, when you were watching the movies as a kid, were you ever thinking like, "Wow, I want to make that someday," or were you just like? Not really, even a thought.
Not
that
really,
this is
except
what you wanted to do.
Like I'd watch the behind the scenes a lot on like DVD extras and stuff, and I think I would be like, whoa, like there's like all these people have these jobs that you can do. You can be a costume designer, you can be a camera guy. Like I just always thought it was just the actors, are in front of the camera to make the movie and the director, I guess. But yeah. And then in high school, I did a little bit of creative writing, and then I went into college thinking I wanted to be a writer, and I knew I was interested in film, and so I was like, well, maybe I could be a screenwriter of some kind.
Where did you go to school?
Elon University.
I knew this.
No relation to Mr. Tesla, but I have to do that disclaimer now every time.
Did you go to Elon for film then, or like do they have a film program?
I did. Yeah, I went for film. I just didn't. I wasn't going to be, I just thought I was going to be a writer. I wasn't going in for editing or anything in particular.
So you getting an English degree or something?
No, I wanted to major in film, and then I think I was going to do a film major and then a creative writing minor, which is what I did. And so I just thought I was going to be the next big screenwriter or some kind. I knew nothing about it. I was just like, this sounds fun. So I got involved in a whole bunch of extracurriculars with the school. My school didn't have, a huge film program, but the thing it did have was a equipment rental system that was really just open for business all the time. And you could just go and pick up a camera and tripod, and like any point you want, you can just check it out and just goof around on the weekends. And so the students had made a sketch comedy show that would shoot on the weekends. So people would just write scripts during the week. We'd have like a production meeting on Thursday or Friday, and then shoot something on Saturday. And so we would do that every weekend, just goof off, just shoot something dumb. It was always bad, but it was always, it was the best memories I had in college were doing those every weekend. But then we'd gather all this footage and no one wanted to cut it. And we'd be like, okay, well, we got to cut it at some point. And so I don't remember distinctively which time, but I was just like, well, I'll do one. I'll try it. It can't be that hard. And so I did one. I was like, wow, that was really hard. It was like for something that was just, probably like a 2-camera setup or something. But yeah, I was like, that was challenging, but I loved it. It was really fun. It was like building a puzzle, and, then you have this thing that you put your hands on that you could say, hey, I made that come to life, So that was really intriguing to me. And so I kind of became the, I guess, lead editor, you could say, like just kind of the go-to guy that was cutting all these sketches that we did. And so I just kept doing it. I would do one like almost every weekend, and so I just started living in the edit suites that we had in the basement of the school, and I just became known as the editing guy.
The editing guy.
And I soon kind of realized that it wasn't really screenwriting that I wanted to do. It was editing, which is kind of another form of writing.
Right, yeah.
In a weird, and I mean, like, yeah, and that, more often than not, maybe less than we'd like, we do end up having to crack open a pad of paper and rewrite scenes for.
Well, they do, the film goes through
3 versions,
three versions,
rewrites,
right?
yeah.
Writing and then production and editing. So it is.
And the amount of times I've been in a room and it's like, all right, we have to write this ADR, and we like write 6 different lines, and then you try them and you're like, that works, that doesn't work, or whatever. Or, God forbid, you're going to go do reshoots. So now you're helping the director like prep a script for reshoots. And
it will
does
completely change a story.
Yeah. So I was just really enthralled by the whole process. I just loved every bit of it. And so I think like sophomore year, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be an editor. Again, didn't really know much about how to do that. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So in my sophomore year, I ended up doing a program where I came out here to do an internship. So
and where were you from originally?
Originally from Annapolis.
Okay.
So from Annapolis, and went to school in North Carolina, and then came out here for that internship program. So I was on the West
You never wanted to be in the Navy? Never wanted to be an officer, gentleman?
If I could have been, maybe. That could have been a good squid.
Yeah. I thought it was it's like down the street. I'm seeing all these people in white coats walk by all the time, and you're.
Oh, yeah. It's huge there, yeah.
So you went to LA.
Yeah, went to LA for an internship in college, and just to kind of get a sense of what it was like to be out here. And that's when I kind of was like, whoa, this is where the industry is. This is where everything is. And at that point I was like, I think I'm going to have to move here when I graduate. Like I hadn't really until that point been like, I just kind of naively thought, I could just do this anywhere, which, you can sometimes, but to do what I really wanted to do, which was to work in features as an editor, I was like, I got to move out here to make that happen. So, So I finished up college, and then I think it was a month after I graduated, I moved out here, and I was lucky enough to like a week before, I had cold called some trailer houses and just seeing if they needed help or whatever. I just kind of thought maybe that's a path to get into, post. And luckily they had a PA that was getting promoted, and they were like, they called me and they're like, are you still moving out here? And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in a week. And they're like, well, we need a PA for the office if you want to do that. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
Wow.
I was like, of course I want to.
Wow, that's crazy.
And which trailer house? Right?
Motion is what it was the
Motion.
name of it.
Okay.
No, Motion.
Yeah, they've been around.
Motion. Isn't that where Esther was when she was a VFX editor? Was she not at Motion?
Sorry, you're thinking of Motion. Like, so let me break it down.
It's not Motion, Michael. It's Motion. No, I think it was something.
Like, am I having a stroke?
Yeah.
Motion.
I don't know what's confusing about that.
MOTION and then MOCEAN.
Yes,
that's what we're referring to. Okay.
I think so. I don't know, something like
All right. Whatever.
And so I was
Wait, so which motion are you at?
The one that's spelled MOC, like ocean, like
ocean,
C
like
with an M in front.
Gotcha.
Of it.
So is it like Mo dash
Motion.
shit
Motion,
like
I've
Mo
seen,
Cap?
you know what? I've
motion?
seen
like
I've seen both of these companies, so I know both of these companies exist. But okay, so motion.
I don't know. I think that Ben
motion
is,
of the ocean.
I think. I think Ben is messing with us. I think
I don't. I think
this is just clue number 2. Anyway, while
one
you look
more,
that up,
and Michael's getting shipped off.
yeah, there's motion, and motion. There's 2 motions.
So I got a job there as a PA for the office, just doing runs and coffee runs, lunch runs, all sorts of random office things, and then I got promoted, which a little bit promotion, which was I got to be the machine room PA, which even when I was there was kind of an outdated title. It was when you sit in the room with all the tape decks and
this is 2010. I'm guessing.
Oh no, this was 2015.
Oh, 15.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I graduated in 2015. Yeah, so I got moved into the machine room there, which was kind of like an IO job. Like I was bringing in assets and sending them out to the studios, kind of,
Sure.
and I would also, on a rare occasion, use a tape deck, which, like, even at the time, I was like, I don't know how to do this, and I don't think I'll have to learn how to do this for very long. Anyway, long story short, so during that time, I was aware of the ACE internship program because, I skipped this thing. So in senior year of college, I applied for the ACE student editing competition, which is, if you don't know, they do it every year where they send you apply to as a student, you apply to be in the competition. They'll send you dailies from a project of some kind, whether it's a TV show or a short film.
It's always like the same.
I wish I knew about this when I was in college. I literally didn't know anything about ACE probably until I met like all of you guys, like Esther and Haruka, and like I had no idea about like the ACE internship, like all of this stuff I didn't know until well beyond my
I think I was
career.
Like I said, I was lucky to know exactly what I wanted to do when I graduated. So after I did that sophomore year internship, I had 2 full years of college to like be a nerd and figure out like and plan strategically all these things. And I looked up all sorts of, I just looked up editing internships. And of course, that's the first thing that probably comes up when you Google it, because it's a very well-known program. And then I went to their website and then was like, what is this student editing competition? And read about it. And I was like, oh, wow, that sounds awesome. And anyway, so I applied for it, got sent the footage to this short film. And then I was cutting. I remember my friends were like, what are you working on? And I was like, oh, it's this, they tried to explain it. And they were like, why would you do that for free? Or, like in your free time? I was like, yeah, I was just, I'm trying to see where it goes. And anyway, so I worked on it really hard and then I sent it in. And I didn't really hear anything. And we actually had what was called, in our school, was called fake break, which is like a January break before winter term. And so my family, we were planning a trip to Disney World. And so we were about to leave in a couple of days and I hadn't heard anything. And I was like, oh, okay. And the Eddies were around that time. And so I was like, well, maybe it just didn't work out. And then like literally like, a few hours later, as I was like, planning to get ready for this trip, I got the call and said, we'd love to have you fly out for the Eddies. You're in the top 3 of the student competition. I was like, oh my God. And so, I immediately had to plan a trip and come out here. And so, so I came out and met a whole bunch of great people. I met Karsten, who now runs the internship program. And he was so kind. And he introduced me to all these amazing people. And I learned about the internship program through that. And spoiler, I did not win. But it was just getting to go was the true victory.
Right, the experience.
In my mind. It was the experience was priceless to be able to do that. And of course, I was like, I hadn't met a celebrity in my life, and I walked in the door, and immediately Chris Pratt comes in, and Matt Damon comes in, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And Matt Damon goes to the bathroom, and I was like, I kind of have to go to the bathroom also at this convenient time, and so I was like, this is cool and really eye-opening experience, and. Anyway, so then that's how I learned about the internship program, so when I came out here, at that time, the internship program, the cycle started in January, you'd apply in October and then you'd interview in like January and then get it in like February or something like that. And so the whole time when I was at Motion, I knew I wanted to do that. So I was applying.
Now, I do want to ask, which I didn't even think to ask the other Esther Haruka before, but how long after you graduate college are you eligible for the internship?
I want to say, I don't know if it's changed. At the time that I did it, it was 2 years.
I think it's still 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So 2 years after you graduate, you're able to apply for it. And
that's
then
what
after
it was.
those 2 years,
I don't want to misspeak, but that's what it was when I did it. I know things have changed a little bit.
It says eligibility. To be selected as the ACE intern, you have to have a passion for editing. You are beginning your career in editorial. Members of the MPEG will not be considered. If you are still actively attending a college, you must have graduated by the time the internship starts. International applicants will need a work visa. That's it.
Great.
So they got rid of the 2-year requirement. They
it's not really
just went that this
time,
doesn't.
but-
This is not as essential as it used to be.
So I applied and then got to the next stage. I was in the final 10, I think it was at the time. So I was a finalist, and then I did the in-person interview. And then I, unfortunately or fortunately, was not one of the 2 interns. But through that experience, I met all of my friends and contacts that I still have to this day. At the time, I was like, well, dang, I moved out here to do this exact thing, and what am I going to do? I didn't get this internship, and I was planning on leaving my job at Motion to do this, and like, what do I do from here? It was kind of my first big roadblock of trying to figure out what to do next. And so, but luckily, I was fortunate to be a honorary intern, which is what they called the people that they wanted to bring into like kind of a subgroup and help out and give kind of a mini internship. So I did a week of shadowing, and I left my job at Motion to do that. And I was like, okay, this is my leaping off point to getting into features one way or another. Through all that, got a job as a PA in reality television, started as a PA, worked up to an assistant in reality, got my days for the union through that.
What reality show?
It was a bunch. I worked at this place. It was a company called 5x5, and I think they've since gone out of business, but I worked for them for a bit, and then I worked for a company called ITV, and we did all sorts of stuff. It was
That's where Zach Mixo worked at. He worked at ITV.
Yeah, I was just in the bullpen of assistants. So, I mean, like every single day, it was like some new thing. And it was not where I wanted to be in the long run, but it was a great experience because it was kind of like a technical boot camp where I was just learning all these things rapid fire on all these different shows and working with all these different people. And so it was just a really accelerated way to learn everything, in my opinion. And it's reality. So you're doing, as an assistant, you're kind of doing a lot of the work yourself. Like you don't have a Daly's house. You have your getting the mags from the set and ingesting everything and grouping everything and syncing everything, doing sync maps. And you'd have like one of the shows we did was like a kind of like a Big Brother style, like they'd have a camera running 24 hours a day, and then the timeline would glitch out because it's over 24 hours long, and you just start the next one, and it was like this whole, it was just a lot. It was, and I was very thankful that I had some people that had been there for longer than I who were able to then kind of explain how to do everything, because I was like, well, what am I doing? Anyway, so I got my days and then ended up leaving, and that was my next big jumping off point. And Esther, who is a friend of the pod, friend of the show, friend of ours, hired me to be the PA on Rampage.
All roads lead back to Rampage. The joke I always tell Esther. How did that come about, though? But how'd you meet Esther?
Well, I had met Esther through back in 2015 when I first moved out here, because again, going back, I was a nerd in the last few years. Well, I was a nerd for all time, but I was a nerd in the last couple of years of college because I was just planning strategically what I wanted to do. And in looking up what all these things were, doing the student competition, I learned about Edit Fest, which is every summer. It's one of my favorite events of the year that Ace puts on. I reached out to Jenny McCormick at the time and asked if I could be a volunteer. Not really knowing if that was even the thing. I was like, can I just come to this, be like, help out? And she's like, of course. And it was super nice. And so I was a volunteer that year, didn't know anyone, but I think, I saw Esther, and I had seen her on LinkedIn because I was just looking up people who had gone through ACE before. And so before I went out there, I was like, well, maybe I'll run into them and I know who they are kind of. And so I recognized her, I recognized the name, and I recognized her face, and I was like, oh,
I love that you're doing like what presidents have to do, where they get like a binder of names and faces, and they're like, this is the foreign minister to Guyana.
Well,
I had an
assistant who was I was whispering in my ear every time I met someone.
Oh, really? They're like, okay, this is so and so.
They were like,
that's
who
nice.
the heck is that guy? Yeah, I did the same thing for Amelia, who's one of my friends, and she was the intern the year before, and she was there, and so I was like, was like, whoa, these are all the people. These are celebrities. I've seen their faces on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and I was like, wow,
Editorial celebrity.
And and I didn't really know that they were going to. Like, I was just like, oh, I know who these people are. They have no clue who I am. But I was like,
yeah.
Anyway, so I just kind of chatting through the event there, and we stayed in touch a little bit, and saw him at the other events. At the lecture series for the internship when I applied for it and all that. And anyway, so we just stayed in touch, and
this is kind of the networking that we were talking about with Haruka on his few episodes back, where you meet people and then you just kind of like keep in touch and build up a relationship, and that's how you
and
also the fact that you're doing your homework. I mean, like that's something I talk to people who are trying to break into the industry about. Is it's like, and we've talked about Leanne used to do the spreadsheet thing, and it's like, there are these real strategies to like networking in the sense that like it's not just being oodles of charisma all the time. It's like doing your homework as to who these people are and what's going on in their lives, and like knowing kind of like it probably helped, going to, when you go to Edit Fest, instead of just being like, well, I'm just going to go and see what's up. You're like, oh, I know that person because I've been reading about this industry and their name keeps popping up, and look, oh my God, they're over there, and I can actually go and I can talk to them, and, I can come across as somebody who has actually done his or her homework.
Yeah. And the good news about that, like that kind of homework, like it kind of, when for anyone listening out there and you're like, that seems like a lot of work for just socializing. It kind of is, but you kind of only have to do it in the beginning. And then once you meet people, then it kind of just comes more natural.
Well, then it just becomes so-and-so and what's going on in so-and-so's
life. Like if I'm going to Cuts and Cups, I'm not making a spreadsheet every time I go to Cuts and Cups, but it just becomes like, it's just all a spin-off point, and you just meet all these people. And the industry is so small that everyone knows each other, and it becomes easier and easier as you go. Because I will just say I am not a good networker or good at keeping in touch with people, so I'll just go out and say as a disclaimer. So I don't have the best advice on how to do that because I'm not good at it. But
that's why we didn't bring you in for the networking episode.
But I'd also disagree. I mean, like your version of networking is like you're contacting somebody, you're cold emailing somebody you don't know to ask to go and volunteer in an event. Like I don't know how to describe that other than networking. Like that is an element
it is networking.
That is an element of like a good networking play. Right? It's like, oh, where's the community at? Oh, the community is here. How can I get involved in the community?
You want to be a moth flying to the light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go to where the hot spots
and
are.
Also, I think like, even if you're saying that you're not good at it, but I think that just by doing that, it's like, it is good networking. And then it's also good for anybody who's listening, because like maybe they just haven't thought of doing that. So it's like hearing the experience of someone else who's done it, whether or not you think it's good. I still think it's a good strategy to do too.
Yeah, it's all about putting yourself in a position where you can be a little bit lucky sometimes. You want to put yourself in a position where you can just be in the right place at the right time. Yeah. You want to have the skills, of course, to be good at the job, but you also want to get lucky because that's honestly, that's a lot of the industry is you just kind of show up randomly, meet some random person and they just randomly need someone. So it's putting
speaking of luck. Yeah. So speaking of luck, you met Esto.
Yes. Oh yeah. So, and then, I was able, I was very lucky
and you
to
go to
meet
work
all
on
those
the
people
monkey movie
and
on the monkey
gorilla movie.
The gorilla movie.
The gorilla movie.
Yeah. So I was a PA on Rampage, which is my first foray into features, big studio features, and I didn't really know what to expect, but I was kind of in an interesting position because I had been an assistant already.
Assistant on scripted or assistant on
assistant
reality?
in reality television.
Okay.
I had not assistant in scripted, so I had no scripted experience yet.
Right.
So I had skills in Avid and other things, and I wasn't sure if I was going down per se to a PA was the right or wrong move at first. And
the answer is right.
The answer is right.
Well, I do want you to talk about this a little bit more, because I feel like that there are people who are assistants for whether it be reality, whether it be like commercial, anything, and they have this mindset that they can't be a PA because they've been an assistant and they want to be an assistant for narratives.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask kind of your thoughts, your personal thoughts, and then also just like, how did that feel like you were stepping down, or did you kind of like you said, you kind of felt like you were stepping down at first, but like, did you realize that it was the better choice, or like just kind of like your thoughts about that?
Well, I ultimately I wanted to be in features no matter what, and I was going to be willing to do whatever it took to do that. And so I think maybe the first day I think I was kind of like, oh man, did I make the right choice? And obviously the team was amazing. I gush about the Rampage team all the time, and they were all amazing in it. But I think the first day I was like, gosh, did I do the right thing? But then as soon as I like just started learning all the things that I didn't know anything about in features, I was like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I did this. Because the thing about PAing, especially in features, is you get to shadow a lot of stuff, whether that's literally sitting in the cutting room watching an assistant work or an editor work, but you're just in this cutting room, which is a lot smaller than you'd envision it most of the time. Like you think of these big movies and you think of like some giant building where there's like 50 people like doing all these jobs. It's really usually just like a hallway with 8 people maybe or something. Yeah. And you're all pretty close together. And so whether you want to or not, you're just kind of absorbing all this stuff that's going around. You're absorbing the assistants running to the other assistants' room saying, hey, we got to get this thing out, or we got to do this. And then the editor comes and tells them or asks them to do something, and you're just kind of listening and being like, oh yeah, that's why they're asking to do that. And they're doing that because that and that. And so, and then you'll have like a music editor move in, some VFX editors move in, and all of a sudden there's other departments coming in and interacting with each other. And so it's really just like, you're kind of just in the middle of this crazy thing happening. And from a PA perspective, you're helping the team. You're a critical part of the team because you're keeping everyone fed, which is always an important thing, but you're also just making everyone's lives easier in every way. So everyone loves, if you're a good PA, everyone will love you. And you're getting to see all this stuff without having the responsibility of any of it going wrong. Like you're not being asked to do all this stuff. You're just absorbing and learning it so that when you do get in the seat to be an assistant, you're already ready to go. So for me, it was an amazing choice. I'm so thankful that I did that and thankful that I had the opportunity to do that. Because I think going into that, I thought, well, I kind of know this stuff. I know I've been an assistant, and I did not know it. It was like I did not know as much as I thought I did. So I'm really glad I had that kind of humbling experience. So after Rampage, because I had already had my days, I was already on the roster. I was not in the union yet because I hadn't had a union position, but I was on the roster already from my days in reality television. Then I was ready to jump on to something right after that using the networking that I just made for working 9 months on Rampage. And through that, I ended up on Avatar that way. And so none of that would have happened if I hadn't made that move.
And I'm sure we could do a whole podcast about Avatar. I feel like that's like a whole... I mean, you're on that for...
That's a whole separate...
You're on that for 5 years? 4 years?
It felt like it. No, it was...
You're on a long time.
It was May of 2018 to... I want to say like May of 2021. So it was like it was 3 years, I guess.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Which for anybody listening who doesn't work in features, that's an incredible amount of time to be on a feature. I mean, like that's like animated film
and
level
the team,
levels of time.
I joined late and left early too. So like it was
Wild.
There were people that were on it already before me and people that are still on it to this day. So it's, I definitely don't want to get too into the weeds on it because I could talk for hours on the logistics of that job and all of the workflow of it. That's really so advanced and different than anything else. But what I will say about it is, was that an experience of like almost going to film school again? I can imagine that like. And you're not the only person I've chatted to who's worked on Avatar, and basically anybody who worked on that has been like, they describe it as like you're going to school again. I mean, you're learning the highest level workflows of everything, of sound, of color, of visual effects, of editorial. Like there is not a more complicated film series that exists. Like it's the hardest or the most complicated, at least. And and I will say I started as an apprentice originally. So they hired me as an apprentice. And then after, I think it was a year, then I got bumped up to an assistant. And I was working primarily at first on set on the motion capture volume, bringing in dailies and doing assistant work in the middle of this crazy, insane movie being made. And so it was like, it was just funny. Like it was like trying to do my, I was doing my job, but it's like, you also have this front row seat to this historically large production happening right in front of you. Like literally like if we were in this, and the like, I'm literally like sitting at it's called the Brain Bar. And so we're literally sitting at this row of computers where the Avids were and all the other technicians were. And I could just watch the movie being made in front of me. And it was a really wild experience. And every single day I was like,
did you ever get to read the script when you were there? Or did you have to figure out what the movie was about while you were there?
I had already, by the time I had gotten there was enough that I could
figure it out.
Put together.
Yeah. So it was already, because
I'm just thinking about that movie, and that movie is what, 3.5 hours long, something like that. And I can't even imagine like a rough assembly of that must have been
probably
6-7 hours long.
Yeah.
So how the hell are you supposed to figure out what this movie's about? I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're there and there's a lot going on, you could generally get a premise, but like it's also all green screens and
it's a lot to keep track of. And I owe a lot of my what I hope was success there, to my friend Ben, who shares my name, which wasn't confusing for anyone, of course, on the set when we were both working on there. But,
Other Ben.
So I just became Other Ben as soon as I started. Anyway, so Ben Murphy was there, and he took me under his wing and taught me everything, and we're of course good friends now. And so he really taught me how to like work under pressure and just kind of adapt to all these crazy situations and anticipate all the needs that everyone would need. And so it was a wild experience.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Whenever I talk to you about it, it's always just so crazy to go from that, like that apprentice to that assistant position on Avatar. It's like a whole career in a movie. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I was definitely a fish out of water for a while.
It's so cool.
And then the thing that was very fortunate, lucky, again,
but you found the way of water.
Yeah, I did.
Fish out of water finding his way. In the end, the way of water
was the friends that I made along the way.
Oh my god!
But I was just thankful to be on it during the pandemic too. I mean, I was so many of my friends were not working during that time. And we were. So
Avatar was quite
I worked through quite an amazing experience.
Would not trade it
now. I do. Yeah. Yeah, actually I'm going to do this whole podcast again in Navi.
We're going
to Yeah, I've met so many amazing people through that job. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And eventually just came time that I decided that I wanted to make a change. And so I all roads kind of lead back to Esther for my
more
career,
than 2 films to your resume for 5 years of working.
I just needed something else. And so I
I just heard that all roads lead back to Rampage, but really all roads lead back to Esther.
In my case, or everything really. And so
you just hit up Esther and say, hey, what are you doing? I'm bored. No, we won't say it.
WYD, sup? What you doing? You up?
For anybody listening, that's how you network.
Out of the blue, 5 years later, sup? What you doing?
And so she was going on to The Flash, and so I got brought on to The Flash right after that, and that was a awesome experience.
Was that literally just a conversation of you being like, hey Esther, I'm on this movie, I'm like looking to do a different position, grow, do you have any films that are going on that you can bring me on to? Like, are you that direct about it, or are you just being like, is Esther asking you like, hey, you done with Avatar? I got this other thing I want to start. Like, how does that come about?
Oh, we had chatted for a while about the possibility of that, and it just kind of it had been
an ongoing conversation.
Like it was with the pandemic, it was trying to figure out the right time, and they also had to figure out if they could even bring me on, and so it was kind of a whole back and forth, and thankfully it worked out. So I made that move, and it was I got lucky, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. That was one of my favorite experiences I've had by a long shot out here and doing The Flash with that team.
And you started as a second on Flash, and then eventually got bumped up to the first.
That's correct. Yeah. Again, very lucky that I was able to do that, and it was like, it was really great, and that's how I met Haruka and Jason, who's the other I've been working with since then, and Janie and Cam and Melissa and all the amazing people there. there. And the Flash was a really cool experience. And I was on that. Yeah, I guess it was May or June or something, I think, of 2021. And then was on that for, I think, almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half, I think. So another long one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I had a sort of a lot of years of experience at this point, but only, it was just funny because it was only like, I think 3 credits up to that point.
Right.
Yeah, The Flash was amazing. Again, a really VFX heavy movie. So I think a lot of the skills I developed through Avatar transferred over to that. Of course, learning to deal under pressure and, on something that's such a big scale, and lots of writing on that movie. And so
to kind of segue into my next question, one of the things Esther and I talk about, and we've talked about on the show, is kind of the almost tricky part of being a first. And now that you become a first on The Flash, and you're, a first professionally now, I always like to ask first kind of their philosophy in that position, because I do think the first position is inherently different from the rest of the assistant editor positions, because you kind of go from managing technicals to managing people. So you kind of enter this new kind of position that you more or less have not been officially trained for at all up until this point, right? You're learning more and more technical skills and learning more and more, maybe professional skills, but people skills kind of comes out of nowhere and hits you like a truck.
It's like the first leadership role that you're kind of thrown into and that you have to take. Michael and I do like to talk about what it was like for you to move into that role.
And since we've interviewed Esther, I'm curious what you see as your philosophy that's similar to Esther, and then maybe how you do stuff different in your own cutting rooms to manage your own kind of style. How do you take that position on the nose?
Interesting. Well, on the leadership side of things, I think a lot of the skills that I gained, or I hope I gained, again, kind of come from Avatar in a way, because even though I was just, an assistant on that and a cog in a large team of people, I was interacting with so many different departments, so many different people, and kind of managing a lot of my own tasks in a way, because everyone was doing so many different things, that I learned to just kind of take the reins on things, even as an assistant. So when I went on The Flash, I think I came in with a lot of confidence to be able to manage my own tasks, even just as a second at first.
I imagine Avatar is not necessarily like other films where it's like you've just got the one first managing everything. I'm sure because it's such a massive thing, it's a team. It's like a whole team effort to do anything. So
yeah, definitely.
I see. I guess that makes sense.
I guess what I'm saying is I kind of had to sink or swim in that job.
You already had the level of self ability to take care of yourself on your own because you had to on a show like Avatar.
For sure. Yeah. So I think I came out of that with a lot of innate skills to just kind of take the reins for myself and do that kind of stuff. So as a first now, I try to just be very hands-on with everything. I try to be hands-on with everything that everyone's doing on my team. I try to know, it's all about information. You just want to know everything that's going on, especially with your editor too, with, Jason or anyone that I'm working with. I just try to be aware of everything they're doing. Obviously, they're in their own world cutting the movie or whatever, and they'll bring me in when I'm needed. But I try to kind of just check in with them and be like, what are you working on? What notes are you hitting? Why are you doing this? And Jason is so amazing that he'll bring me into that fold usually. And so a lot of times I don't have to force it. What I'm saying is I think some assistants maybe get caught up in the technicals of things. Some firsts or some assistants? Just ever. Also, I think it's easy to get caught up in the technical aspect because it's a very technical job. And what I try to tell people when they ask is you want to do the technical part of the job, but you also want to do the non-technical, which is the information and management and knowing what all is going on at all times, because information is power in this position. How do you manage something? Okay, so a bunch of turnovers are coming in for some preview or something like that. How are you managing these stuff you can't be hands-on for because you've got too much to deal with? You've got to go be in with Jason and the editor and the director, whatever you're dealing with. You literally don't have the time to look over every turnover and do it all. How do you manage delegation? How do you manage those kinds of things? What gets delegated? What doesn't get delegated? Yeah, multitasking is a huge part of the job. And that's something that I admittedly am still working on for sure. I hope I'll continue to improve on it, or I hope I've improved on it in some way, but it's very hard. That's the hardest part of the job, in my opinion, is the multitasking and
keeping everything straight.
Cause when things get busy, they get really busy, and there's a lot of things to juggle. You're talking with one department, and then you're handling stuff for your editor, and then there's turnovers that got to go out the door, and you're also a screenings coming up. And so it's like, it can be overwhelming very fast and very easily, for sure. So delegation is really important. It's really important to hire people on your team that you can trust. So obviously Haruka and everyone else that I've hired, I'm hiring people that I know I can just ask them to do something, and there's not going to be a whole lot of issues. I don't expect everyone to know everything, because I certainly don't know everything, but I want to hire people that are confident that they can take the reins on this task. And so, it's just communication is key. So in the stressful times when things are chaotic, you want to be just chatting with people all day long. And that's why I like using Slack, because you can just kind of quickly message things out to people, be like, hey, I got to run with Jason real quick. Can this get done? And then someone gives me the thumbs up, and I know it's getting done. That's really important for me. And that's why I like working in person too. I know things are a lot of hybrid jobs nowadays, and obviously they can be successful. But for me personally, I like working in person, because I can just run across the hall real fast, or literally shout from my office, hey, are you working on that thing? And yeah, we're good.
Right.
And
yeah.
So I like that kind of atmosphere for sure. It's just remaining calm and cool when needed, but not too calm and cool, because you want to be on your toes at all times and aware of things that could go wrong and what needs to get done. And those screening days are usually the most stressful days on the job, usually, because you're trying to hit a deadline and you don't want to stay there till 5 a.m. You want to get out and get home to your family. So it's all about making sure that, reels are getting checked off and screenings getting made and everything's being QC'd properly, which is probably the most important thing. You don't want any mistakes, of course. And it's just having your hand. You want to be an octopus, with hands and everything, but you have to surround yourself with people you can trust.
When you moved up to the first on The Flash, was that kind of a process where Esther was helping you grow into that role? Like, was she coaching you stuff, or?
Oh yeah, totally.
Or was that also more of a like, hey, I gotta, because I think she became the additional editor, correct?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And that's an amazing opportunity for her. So, is that she's got to deal with that. That comes with a whole other bag of goodies to deal with.
I was for sure learning stuff. I came in with a lot of skills, I think, for Avatar, but you got to remember too that Avatar is so different than any other movie. And so really when I came on The Flash, that was maybe, I guess you could say, probably my first assistant job on a more traditional movie. So there was a lot of things that I did know, but there was still a lot of things that I didn't know simply because I hadn't done it yet.
I was going to ask you about that kind of transition, because as you said there, it's very different. And especially when you go through, Esther's a different case, because I know that she's very open with communication and very transparent about what's going on. But it just made me think about moments where I didn't know everything that was going on, and I was kind of taught or told, like, okay, listen, if you're just like given this task, you just kind of have to do it. We don't have time, or we can't really give you the background information. I was coming off from knowing all of that stuff, being like, okay, I know where, if I'm asked a task, then I kind of am wanting to know where it's coming from and what it's for, so that I can then do it as efficiently as possible, or like prioritize myself. But I was coming into a role where that wasn't always the case. So I was kind of wondering if that was that kind of, you're coming off of a big film that's not like any other kind of traditional cutting room. So then going into a more traditional cutting room, was that like a relief, or was it kind of like a cultural shock in a way, or what was that transition? Yeah. You're like, oh my God, now like I don't have to, as the second in the beginning, you don't have to manage or like talk to all these departments. Like Esther's kind of handling that until you move up into this first position.
Sure. Yeah. I think it would have been a huge shock if I hadn't been a PA on Rampage. So it kind of goes back to it kind of goes back to, again, like
your roots. You're going back to
even though I wasn't going back to my roots. Even though I wasn't Rampage. Even though I again wasn't an assistant on Rampage, I was absorbing so much of that cutting room. We were just a small cutting room on the corner of the Warner Brothers lot, and I was there for every step of the way since I was hired until I left. Right. So I was very aware of the dynamics and how they're meant to work in a more traditional cutting room like that. And I just had to kind of pull from my memory from 3 years before.
Right.
And then I settled into it pretty quickly, I think, or I hope.
Okay.
So yes, it would have been a huge shock for sure, but I think I was able to get into it pretty quickly. Yeah.
And then talking about, because you were just talking about delegating tasks, multitasking, all of that. We wanted to ask about burnout. We always kind of try to ask people if they've experienced burnout and what they do to get out of it, which can kind of go on top of managing other people's schedules, making sure other people aren't burnt out. And and how you handle it.
It's a very particular thing as a first, right? I can only really speak as a second on big films, and more or less when you're feeling burnout, that's a you problem, right? Like it's a me problem for me to go figure out how I can get myself right and feel good to go back into this space and be productive again and be creative. But as a first, you're kind of in this tricky position where if you're getting burnout and if other people are getting burnout, it's both a you problem and it's a their problem. It's like you have to manage the emotional states of other people. So
yeah, definitely,
that becomes this very tricky thing as well.
Yeah, burnout's a real thing for sure. I was, again, thankfully working from the time I started on. Well, really, I mean, honestly, since my first PA job up until last year, really, I was working all the time. I never really had any time off. And I think the only vacation.
Because you were working 5 years straight, essentially. It was just one after the other.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I mean, I think one of them had a little bit of time between, but not much. And yeah, it was a lot. I'm of course married to my amazing wife Jenny, and
you had a wedding in the middle of that.
It was in 2017 we had a wedding. Anyway, so she's amazing, of course, and very accepting that I'm working a lot. Yeah, I hadn't taken many vacations through those 5-6 years, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just really, you want to just surround yourself with the friends that support you and that can, be your peace of mind, really.
This is in the cutting room or both in and out of the cutting room?
Oh, both for sure. Well, hopefully you're lucky enough to be friends with the people on your team too, and it's that makes the experience all the better, and certainly on Flash, I mean, I was friends with everyone on that team and we all got along so well. But yeah, I mean, as far as specific things to handle burnout, I know this is going to sound absolutely insane, but I love watching movies. And so I know it's going to be why would you want to watch a movie that when you just worked 12 hours on movies and you come on your way to watch a movie? But I think for me, it's the burnout comes from a lot of the technical stuff for me. So it's I just don't want to be at a computer typing ones and zeros anymore at the end of the day. But experiencing movies and experiencing a creative outlet through that, it kind of reinvigorates me to then go in the next day and be okay, now I'm ready to go again. And I just watched this amazing movie last night, and ours could be that amazing too. It's so that kind of energizes me as well. Shout out to my Letterboxd, so I'll plug that one. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll put it in the link dump.
Yeah, we will.
So yeah, I try to I try to watch as much as I can. Obviously, movies that are current, that are coming out. I try to go to the movies with AMC A-List, which makes it very easy. Shout out AMC. I'm not sponsored. So I try to go with friends, on the weekends, every other weekend, try to go see what's out. But then, during the week, I try to watch old movies and things that have been on my watch list for years that, everyone, keeps talking about. It's surprising, or maybe not so surprising, that throughout the day, editors especially love to talk about movies. That's pretty much always a lunchtime conversation is old movies that, oh, you haven't seen that thing? Oh, I can't believe you haven't seen that movie. You got to put down your list. It's your list is 50 movies long. Or you know what I just watched, and I saw that you watched it on Letterboxd and you had a good review of it. I just watched Metropolis.
From
1927.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking
not Megalopolis.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Metropolis. First off, when I watched it, it didn't clock to me that it was going to be a full-on silent film. Of course, I should have been 1927. Of course, it's going to be a silent film, but it played the same. It plays the same piano riff over and over and over. Yes. 2.5 hours. Yes. At one point, I just muted the whole film, but I had to watch it in 2 sittings because I couldn't sit through a silent film for 2.5 hours straight.
I still haven't seen it. I went to film school and I still haven't seen it.
There was the first time, well, I had really heard of it. It was like on a list, but then I went to go score it on Letterboxd, and I was like, it was like, okay. And then Ben had like 5-star, I love this movie. It's so great. And I was like, oh, I think I missed something because.
Yeah. I love watching old movies, like real, like, movies from the 40s and 50s, especially. I watched through the entire like AFI top 100 lists, and now I'm currently working through the Letterboxd top 250, which is a huge undertaking.
4.5 stars for Metropolis.
There you go.
You heard it here
right
now.
You heard it here first.
That's what I'm saying. And I think I gave it 2.5.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, this just
Metropolis, 1927.
This is the first review to ever come out for this movie. Yeah, but you think about that movie and you go, well, that movie inspired Blade Runner, and a lot of
every
sci-fi like it has elements of 1984 and Dune. You could maybe argue this a little bit in there too, and it's like it's that kind of stuff where you watch the old stuff and you're like, oh, well, that's why we have this now. When I was in between jobs last year, I wasn't doing a whole lot, so I was watching 1 or maybe 2 or sometimes 3 movies a day, which was crazy. I think I had like over 300 movies logged for the year, and it was a great experience. Like it was so much fun to just be able to just check off all these movies off my watch list that I had been meaning to for years.
Do you ever go with your cutting room? Do you go with the people like your second?
Sometimes,
you go to see films.
Yeah, which I think is important. I think it's again, it just inspires you to go in the next day and make something of your own. And it's like, again, we're assistants, so we're technically oriented. We're a part of the larger machine that's making the movie. But I think it's important to take pride in that we're also a part, whether it's small or big, in the creative process of the movie. We're still 100%. Having our hands on the movie in some way. So I think we should all take pride when we go and see it on theaters and we're like, oh, I helped make that,
So going back a little bit, is there anything that you do to try to make sure that your team also isn't burnt out, like managing?
We just try to have fun. It sounds simple enough, but like I try to,
like in the office.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. In the office, outside. I mean, like, yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the job, and it's it really can be, and it's stressful a lot of times. But then you have some days that aren't as busy, and it's important to take those hours that are down hours and just do something fun, like
go to coffee, go for walks,
go for a walk. I mean, like I always encourage like PAs to like come up with some fun thing to put on the wall, like a poll of like that, or like let's all talk about our favorite movies and we'll put them up on the wall and like a discussion point or something, and things like that I think are important. On the current job I'm on, where we have a TV in the office that just plays movies all day long.
Oh, really?
I brought a Fire Stick in and we just run things, and like so it's the kind of thing, like if we have an hour that's not so busy, we'll kind of like I'll peek out and be like, oh, what's playing, and then we'll just start talking about that. So things like that are just really important to make the atmosphere fun. And we're not there to goof off, we're there to do a job that we're all getting paid to do, of course, but goof off a little bit.
Another thing that we do like to talk about is something that's not necessarily fun is this idea of like politics in the cutting room. Sometimes people ask like what's the one thing you've learned since starting this job, and oftentimes I'll tell people like it's amazing to me that you kind of realize the best filmmakers are truly the best politicians in Hollywood. Give a generic example, but you can be a great director in picking shots and communicating with actors, but if you can't manage the tense interpersonal relationships of a studio, you're never going to survive. And that does trickle down to the cutting room too. We have a lot of just kind of tense political situations that we have to get through. So what do you think you've learned about that? And what have you learned about what to say, when to say it, what not to say, anything that, just has enlightened your eyes in the last few years?
Yeah, definitely. I think when in doubt, just don't say anything. It's probably,
honestly, great. Just leave it there.
That's probably the best default. But all jokes aside, I think I guess the political kind of, and when we say politics, we're talking like office politics.
Yeah, we're not talking
not the real world stuff, but
national politics. We're talking
when there's politics going on, I think always default to your editor. I mean, you're ultimately there. The editor is your boss. They're the ones who've presumably hired you. So they're the person you should follow and take their lead on. So,
and the person you should be supporting.
Of course. Yeah. So, hopefully you've developed some kind of relationship with this person, whether it's your first time working with them or you've worked with them for years, and you kind of have a rapport with them. And I think, it's important to develop kind of knowing when and where to speak up on certain things. With Jason, he and I think have a really great relationship, and he encourages me to kind of speak up on things if I have a certain thought about the story or about the edit or something like that. And he'll encourage me to kind of, talk to him and be like, actually, I kind of was wondering if, is it possible to cut there? And so there, like that kind of stuff. And so he's just super supportive of that, which I really appreciate. But not all editors are like that. So it's like you have to learn that kind of stuff. And
some editors, if you have a note, they want you to say it in private to them when the director's not around.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
for
some
sure.
editors want you to come in the moment you think of something. Like it really does depend.
Because the editor themselves is, potentially working with a director for the first time, and they're learning how to deal with their own politics with that director, whether that's the first time or they've worked with them for many years. So the more you've worked with a person, the probably more relaxed it's going to be. So if an editor is working with a director that they've worked with a lot, they're going to be relaxed. And then if you work with that, they're going to be relaxed. And then that kind of ends up having a environment where people can just kind of speak freely and just joke around and like say all sorts of stuff, which I've also been in that kind of environment too, which is nice. And but I've been in an environment where it's not like that, and you have to know when and where to say anything. And so, like I said, when in doubt, I would just not say anything in certain situations. But I think going back to what I was touching on earlier, which is, we get caught up in the technicals of things, but I think everyone should feel like they can contribute in some way and offer up opinions and things. And, worst case, you just mention it to an editor on the side when they're not busy and not in the middle of something stressful, and just be, hey, actually, I was kind of wondering, like, why did you choose to do that or something? And certainly don't frame it like, why the heck would you cut that? What were you thinking? It's like, you never want to do that.
No, but, there's times where, I've worked with Hank, and Hank will cut something and he'll be like, what do you think of this? And I'll watch it. And my immediate thought is like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about this, but X, Y, and Z. But there might be something that, 9 times out of 10, he has some music cue that's going to go in there that he can hear in his head that I can't hear yet. And then when he adds it in, I go, oh my God, this is a brilliant idea. What the hell was I thinking? Like, this is way better. So sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah, totally.
So it is best not to, I agree with you, not go in and be like, so why did you do it this way? As like an almost accusatory thing of like, this is a bad idea, but more like asking for clarification because you may not understand the bigger picture of what's going on.
And then just kind of like the overall like office politics too. Like when you're a first, I think it's important to be at least somewhat involved in that, what's going on. If there's a producer coming in and they're talking about something, or if something's going wrong, like it's important to be kind of at least aware of all that and around. You don't necessarily want to insert yourself in a situation that you should be inserting yourself into. And then kind of going down from there, if you're a second or especially a PA, you really don't want to be involved in that kind of stuff at all. Unless you're in this really open environment in which encourages it, then of course go for it. It just depends job to job. But generally, as a PA, you want to take the lead of the second and the first, and of course the other, and then the second ones take the lead of the first and the other, and just kind of go up the ladder. So it's just taking the lead of the people who are right above you and
supporting them.
Them. Yeah, exactly.
And I think you mentioned about how you sort of want to go back to your editor and support him no matter what. And I think it's interesting where the first is being asked to do a task. Like, I always get asked to do a task by the supervisor, right? But you don't know if the editor knows about this supervisor task. So I do always go back to the editor and say, hey, this is happening. Is this okay to do? Is this okay to ship out? Because you get, you'll get...
The worst one is you get the message from the post supervisor or whoever that says, hey, I need you to send the latest cut to this
person.
Oh,
and then you're like, I've made the mistake. I made the mistake early enough in my career being like, oh, okay, sent off. And then an editor being like, how the hell did so-and-so have this cut? And you're like sitting there being like, oh.
Yeah, you always, and I try to do that over in an abundance doing that is just always telling the editor what you're doing.
Yeah. Especially if a request is not, if a request is coming out of the cutting room.
And even if it's annoying, like I'm not afraid to be annoying on that kind of stuff, especially when it's big stuff like setting on a cut. Like I'd rather get in trouble for being annoying and bugging them on questions like that than to get in trouble for doing something that I was not supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, and again, Jason is also overly communicative, which is great, and especially when we're on Slack, and I'll just tell him every single thing that's going on, because every editor's different. Some editors kind of want to block out some of the extra behind the scenes stuff. They don't necessarily need to know how the sausage is made on every single thing or how the turnover is going. Some editors want to know how is the turnover going. It's like that level of detail, which is all fine.
There's some editors that are like, I was not ready for this reel to go to sound turnovers. I wanted to do X, Y, and Z to it. And now we've sent this over to sound turnovers, and you've started a machine that I'm not ready for that machine to have started yet.
Right.
So it is really important to ask. Like,
So
I think this is like stuff that can help with the politics of the cutting room, is being over communicative, but also like if you're first checking in with your editor to make sure that everything, like you're both on the same page, that any kind of request that is coming to you from someone else that they're aware of, and they might be aware of, they might be like, oh yeah, we had a chat and he said to send this, or you might be like, oh, I didn't know about that. Like, let me talk to him first. And then it prevents you from having to possibly sending a cut to someone that the editor didn't know was getting it and could cause a lot more issues. So
and 9 times out of 10, it's not because the editor's hiding something. It's because the editor's trying to generally trying to finish something they didn't get a chance to finish.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And like they know that some scene or some reel can be greatly improved by them spending 30 minutes on this thing that they just literally have not had time to get to yet.
Yeah.
So when you send a scene off, the director comes in and says, hey, I need you to send the reel to blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like that reel just may not be ready. The director may think it's ready, but there could be some glaring technical issue that they were that we were just glazing over during a preview or whatever. While
or they
we were
might
working
come
on
in
that stuff.
just trying to be like, just passing the task off, not saying like, you need to do it now, but just being like, hey, can you send this reel? And then you have to like check in with the editor and be like, well, is this ready to be sent? Are you still working on it? So
I just want to clarify that politics isn't being sneaky. It's not trying to get one over on your people.
No,
it's like, it's just that there's so much communication that happens on a movie and not everyone's listening to every conversation. So it's really just about paying homage to the fact that, when you're an assistant, your responsibility is to your editor.
Yeah. And I as a first, I'm always, and again, this probably annoys a lot of people that I work with, but like I question everything. Like I just question every request that comes in. And I'm not trying to like be like, why am I being asked? It's more of just like, okay, well, what do you need this for? What is it? I need to tell the editor why I'm doing it. Like I try to like, try to assume that I don't want to make assumptions on like that everyone knows everything that's going on. Like I always be like, well, does this person know about it? Does this I try to over communicate that kind of stuff. And I think, again, it just goes back. Like, I'd ultimately rather be in trouble for being annoying than on that kind of stuff than to be in trouble on not telling someone something and not doing it correctly. So,
I mean, I've definitely gotten requests where I think that the request is not that the actual request is trivial, but like, oh, if they're like, oh, send this off to this person. And I think, oh my God, this person's like probably a high executive. Like, we got to make sure everything's perfect. Like, and I'm just like, overly on top of it. And then when I mention it to the editor, they're like, oh, that's just like a fund of the director and it like doesn't need to be all of this stuff. So like asking questions like that, I think can be really good because then it brings down a little bit of the stress and it's like, oh, okay, like I know the editor is in the middle of reel 1, but I have to wait for him to be done before I can send this off to this executive. And like, oh no, it's just a friend. You can send him whatever you got.
You're like, that's just Todd. Send him
just send him the latest. Like we don't really he doesn't need the latest version. And then you're like, oh, okay. So then that kind of asking those questions that Ben is asking kind of can also set up that like, okay, who is this going to? How important? How up to date does this really need to be? Does it need to be super up to date, or can it just be like, oh, send him the export from like last week? Yeah,
and not to sound like a broken record again, but it goes back to like that's why I try to be aware of everything the editor is working on at all times, and I'm not trying to like spy on them, but like. If someone's like, oh, let's turn over reel 2, but I'd be like, oh, but wait, I know that they're working on that thing already. Let me check in with them. Like, that's why it's so important to know what's going on as much as you can, the details of what they're doing without annoying them or spying on them too much. But like, you just want to be in the know as much as possible.
And you can provide context, right? If they're like send reel 2, you can be like, actually, I was talking to Edward, our VFX editor, and he's actually dropping in visual effect shots that are coming in at 4:00. Do you want to send this reel before we get those new visual effect shots in, or would you like to wait? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So that is really, important too, because they don't have a full picture of everything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's you're the keeper of all this knowledge. Editorial in general is this hub for all these departments, and we're always the ones that we're like the middlemen for everything. Like everything is coming through us and going out the other side to someone else. And so we're just, and as the first, you're in charge of that hub. You're the one who's has to know as much information as you can. You need to know more information than anyone on the movie, aside from of course, the director and everyone up there. But like, it's you want to know.
Even sometimes you know more than the director. Like honestly, sometimes the director.
I know more than I ever do.
The director is thinking about creative stuff. They don't really know what's going on with their sound turnovers, or like when are they supposed to be getting stems back? And
in that
you've
sense,
got to know that stuff.
Yeah, you're you're the ringleader of all this behind the scenes stuff that's going on in post across all the departments. With we even talked about sound really that much. Like sound's a whole other beast too. Like managing what they're working on and what's coming from them to the others and VFX and so you're just you're the mastermind.
Anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to plug? What's your Letterboxd at?
Well, I'll give you one hint. It can only be one thing.
All of his accounts are the same.
You can figure it out.
Yeah.
If you were listening to the beginning of the podcast, you'll know. And that's the last clue of the escape room.
If you can't figure it out, then good luck. So thanks, Ben, for coming on to the podcast. And we really appreciate you coming on and giving us some knowledge. I know this weekend you're doing the double feature of Glicked.
Yes. Yes, Gladiator and Wicked. Gladiator 2 and Wicked.
We can't wait to hear what you have to say on your letterbox.
Yeah.
But if there's anything else you want to add or like plug in? Yeah.
Well, aside from my letterbox, which is you should definitely check out. There's lots of good stuff there. So my one thing I just want to shout, it has nothing to do with filmmaking really, but my wife has a side business where she makes friendship bracelets that are really high quality and really great. And she actually made some Wicked ones as well, which is ties into that. But it's called Betty's Garden Bracelets. She started it for Taylor Swift stuff, and it's evolved into doing anything from baseball teams to theater things, movies, and all sorts of stuff, whatever you want. So
get your bracelets for the Wicked premiere.
Send me the link and I'll add it to the description.
Yeah, everyone go check it out. And then she does a really great job with that.
Is she going to be wearing all of hers for the? Does she also have Gladiator ones?
I don't know, but she should make some.
Can I get all roads lead back to Rampage? That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, she can probably make some.
Michael have an all roads lead back to Rampage.
People be like, did you work on Rampage? And I'm like, no.
I'll have one that says all roads lead back to Esther. And Michael will have all roads lead back to Rampage.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to say, thanks for this is a cool experience, and I really enjoyed doing this. And
thank you for coming on.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we have such a small. The industry is so small, and it's great to get the voices out there and share your experiences with everyone. So I think that's
definitely.
I think the thing I always kind of my default closing remark for all these kinds of things with people that are getting started is that everyone's path is different, and no one person's going to have the same experience that the other person has. And it's really important to not compare yourself to other people and be like, well, oh gosh, they're already assisting on this thing, and they're what I like, but they have less experience than I do, and how'd they get there? And it's like, that's when you start to really unravel things, and it's just becomes not healthy, really.
Comparison is the theft of joy.
Exactly.
It is. Yeah. I've definitely been in those ruts before. I think the other thing, talking about comparison, the other thing too is it's dangerous to have a grass is always greener mentality. Like there was times where I've been on films and I'm like, man, if I had just stayed with this person, or if I had just waited and didn't take this job, then I could have been on this film. And I found myself kind of stuck in this, I want to be on this film, I want to be on this one, I want to be on this one. Like all these jobs that my friends or whoever have, it's like, oh man, if I had just done this, I'd be working with them, but then I wouldn't have gone onto this. Like wanting to be in everything and wanting to jump in is like just not possible. So just having the mentality too of, okay, I'm on this thing, like they're on that thing. It's okay that they're on this big film or with this big director or whatever, but like where I'm at, it's like okay to be at. Like I'll be on something like that too. Intelligent thoughts from Leanne.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom.
I like this segment. It's a good
effect.
segment.
Yeah. New segment. Words of
And
wisdom.
the spin-off is Unintelligible Thoughts by Ben.
Alrighty.
Well, thanks again, Ben. And
Thank you, Ben, for coming on.
Thanks for
coming on.
having me. Yeah.
And catch our next episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Leanne McFalls and Michael Schusterman. Graphic by Max Schulman. Sound mixing by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.